You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again for Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old network where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and sometimes beyond. We're going a little bit beyond today. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as this fine network upon which you are listening to this program right now. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the slew of content we're putting out for you. I know there's a lot of you out there who are perhaps at home, got a little bit more time on your hands, and also a little bit concerned about what's going on in the markets. So we're cranking away on the content front. Glad to see you guys are enjoying it and consuming it in record numbers. Of course, wherever you're listening to this fine program, make sure you leave a review out there so you can help other people continue to discover the slew of content we have coming at you on this fun network. We thought we'd mix it up a little bit today, do something a little bit different, because, we are in somewhat rarefied, somewhat terrifying times. So people are thinking about different asset classes than they may usually be thinking about in these environs. And everyone likes SPY and your indexes and maybe a little bit of a few others, fixed income, a few others, maybe a little bit of gold. But we're going to go a little bit beyond even that right now, because people right now have hard assets on the brain, and it's hard really to blame them. The old thought of put your money in your mattress and maybe grab a few jewels and the family jewels and put them in the old safe downstairs, something along those lines. It's really hard to blame people when they're thinking along those lines these days. So we thought, let's explore that world of hard assets a little bit and see maybe what you guys can do in that space. And joining me to help us do just that is a newcomer to the program and indeed to the network. He's Mr. John Vardis, a.k.a. the Diamond Analyst. John, welcome to the Options Insider Radio Network.
Thank you, Mark. It's a real pleasure to be on the show with you. I'm very excited to share any useful insights and any information for your global listening audience in a very maskless and safe kind of way.
Yes, it is nice to have this virtual discussion. Unfortunately, no in-studio guests at the moment, but we continue on. We soldier on here in this virtual environment. The demand for content is ceaseless these days, so we're endeavoring to keep up with it. I want to get into all this hard asset fun, but before we do that, John, as we are wont to do with all of our first-timers here on the network, why don't you give us a brief overview of your background in that world of hard assets, as well as what it is you do day to day as the Diamond Analyst?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Well, over the last 20 years, I've been able to bring kind of a unique perspective, very few in the diamond industry share, in having worked with the entire vertical supply chain of diamonds, from artisanal mining in Brazil to rough diamond purchasing and trading to the diamond cutting and manufacturing aspect of it, as well as developing technology for manufacturing in diamonds. I'm also been active in polished diamond grading and trading, jewelry making, custom jewelry design, and I've even thrown in a little corporate management experience at one of the very high-end jewelers. So I've basically covered all aspects of the industry supply chain. And right now, the Diamond Analyst provides clients with personalized, integrated guide through this intriguing and complicated diamond buying and jewelry making process. There's vast amounts of information out there on how to buy a diamond, but it really requires you to research and process lots of little-known details.
Let's get into some of those details now, because I'm sure a lot of people in our audience right now are saying, I know what a diamond is. I can go to the jewelry store and buy X carat diamond, and I know the cuts and clarity and things like that. But there's a lot more to it than just that. There's a whole industry, a whole marketplace out there of various different types of diamonds. So maybe let's start there. Let's set the table. When we're talking about diamonds, what exactly are we talking about? What are the most common quote-unquote products out there that I, as an end user or even in the industry, can go out there and purchase?
Well, we're talking polished diamonds. When we, in the industry, when we talk diamonds, there's a rough diamond polished world, a rough diamond world, and a polished diamond world. What happens in the rough diamond world doesn't always relate to what's happening in the polished diamond world. So let's talk polished diamonds, and that's what probably most of your listeners are familiar with and have experience in buying and looking into. There's definitely lots of confusing parameters that go into creating a value for that polished diamond that's going to be the right one for your budget without kind of getting ripped off for getting something that the quality is not really there. I acted as a guide primarily to lots of clients in the finance industry in New York and Chicago and overseas in providing transparent and sort of fact-based details on how to kind of make that right purchase and invest in it for either your engagement ring or your special gift, or as a colored diamond, let's say, investment, looking to hopefully get a return over the long term on something like this.
You do have a lot of investors coming to you looking to invest in diamonds as well, which is kind of interesting. So let's talk about that investment angle for a second. Obviously, in the midst of all this pandemic, we've seen a little bit of a flight to some of the quote-unquote hard assets out there, the flight to quality. For a while there, we didn't see that at all. We saw pretty much correlation moving to one, as it is wont to do, particularly at the height of the pandemic in mid-March. Pretty much every asset was getting crushed, including a typical diversification type tool like gold. Now that we've seen some of the rally happening out there and some of the fears maybe somewhat lessening, we've seen gold actually rally a bit out there as well. It's gone up to about 1,700 an ounce or so, a little bit above, a little bit below these days. Have we seen similar price action out there in the diamond space as well? Was there maybe initial sell-off and then maybe now a flight to quality? What are we seeing out there from price-wise in the diamond market these days?
Well, it's definitely not the increase that we've seen in gold. Diamond prices have pretty much collapsed, and the trading has frozen in the wholesale industry because prices were really kind of falling, 10, 15% as soon as this crisis hit us. And many of the suppliers who carry the bulk of the $25 billion or so inventory value in the States are just would rather hold than sell at a loss. So the market's really kind of frozen up on that wholesale side of things. I think there's great opportunities if you're shopping for Mother's Day or looking to get something in the near future. because the market is definitely softer until we kind of get out of this recovery. But we're expecting a big pent-up demand to hit maybe later in the summer or early fall.
That's interesting because, obviously some of the surface jewelry demand probably going to mitigate a little bit in the near term. People aren't really going out to jewelry stores right now, but you still think some of that lingering, quote-unquote hard asset demand. In these types of times, people like a little bit of capital that they could tuck away physically in their basement or in their proverbial mattress or wherever they may be putting these things. So that increase in demand hasn't been enough to offset everything else you just mentioned on the logistical side, as well as the curtailing of the jewelry demand side. That hasn't been enough to offset it there, John?
No, it hasn't. And where the correlation with the gold and the diamonds happens is more in the secondary market on pre-owned or estate jewelry, where clients take advantage of the higher gold and metal prices and are actually sort of liquidating these pieces that they're no longer interested in holding or not using, and are cashing in on the higher metal prices, and the stones, unless there's something very special about what they have, are really sold back at a discount into the market.
That's surprising because that's not what you'd expect. You'd think in this day and age people would, obviously you have jewelry, which is made up of multiple components, including the precious metals and the thing that probably typically drove a lot of the value in the initial purchase, which was the stone. Now all of a sudden you're selling that item back solely on the value of the precious metals, and you're pretty much giving away the stone, if not worse. That sounds like an interesting trade to be making these days, John.
Right. And these dynamics are part of the reason people are a bit uncomfortable or in delving into investing in jewelry or diamonds because of that sort of resale value is really back at a discount. So the focus on higher quality, unique items matters most, because the high-end branded jewelry from 20, 30, 50 years ago have a greater premium in the market, in the resale market. Very unique, certified, large gemstones of whether diamonds or sapphires or rubies, because they're certified, because they're rare, those have a higher resale value and continue to hold their value.
Let's talk about that marketplace for a second, too, because I've heard rumors for years that it's pretty much monopolized by a handful of players like De Beers. Is that true, or is it a little bit more open and freely accessible these days?
So we'll go back to kind of that separation I made with the rough diamond world, and the polished diamond world. So De Beers operates in that rough diamond world, where they operate diamond mines throughout the world. Primarily, their big producers at highest value are in Botswana and Namibia, and also in Canada. However, the biggest rough producer in the world is Alrosa from Russia. And then we have other players like Rio Tinto, who's got a couple mines, Dominion, which actually just went into receivership and had to close in Canada. So De Beers, once upon a time, kind of controlled about 80% of that rough diamond market and distributed to a select group of clients 10 times a year, producing a box of diamonds that they needed to prepay for and take and use or redistribute. But De Beers had their money. So De Beers was bought out in whole by Anglo American. So that's really who controls De Beers now. And they're probably at about 40% of the rough diamond market, with the other players I mentioned taking up the bulk. And then De Beers probably 10, 15 years ago was able to resolve some antitrust issues here in the States and get licensed to open up retail. And now that's why we see De Beers retail jewelry stores. But that's proven to be a whole different kind of animal to what they knew how to do. And it's taken a while to really get the retail expertise under their belts and get the brand name and everything across to the consumer.
It must be nice to have that kind of market power. You can just walk into a room and say, here's your box of diamonds. Take it or leave it. For the good old days. At least I'm sure that's what the folks at De Beers are saying to themselves right now. Let's talk about some of the tradable side of diamonds as well. People are probably familiar with the diamond ETF. Not quite exactly what people are probably looking for here unless they're looking to trade the Dow Jones. Probably not what we're thinking about. So, John, what is there available on the tradable side, maybe on the structured product side, maybe on the futures side or on the ETP side? If I want to get into maybe something that tries to track any sort of diamond index, what is there available for me?
Sure. Great question. There's been a long time interest in making diamonds a sort of an investable product in the typical kind of exchange format. There is a futures contract, diamond-backed futures contract, traded relatively low volume out of India on the ICEX exchange, on the India Commodities Exchange. And there's another exchange in Singapore also created a diamond-backed product. There's lots of interest in creating diamond-backed cryptocurrency in order to secure that value, but nothing's really developed quite yet to make available, especially here in the U.S., where everything sort of needs that SEC approval. And because of the difficulty in standardizing the value of diamonds or a parcel of diamonds or, say, a basket of diamonds, no real products have really been able to come to market. So your investment options are buying some diamonds in auction houses like Sotheby's or Christie's, or partnering up with insiders in the business who are investing in things like colored diamonds.
So that's still your best point of entry into the diamond space, is going through a specialist. You know, it is surprising to me in this day and age, 2020 now, that we don't have some sort of tradable, whether it's a future or something else along those lines. You know, we do a lot with our friends across the street there, CME, every week pretty much on the network. I'll have to mention to them, say, hey, who's in charge of the diamond-backed product division? Because it does seem like there is an opening. It is a product category that everyone is at least tangentially familiar with. And, of course, and people we've seen much more esoteric products and industries and assets try to get pigeonholed into a future or an ETF or an ETP, and those having all sorts of varied degrees of success. This is a category most people are familiar with, yet there aren't any structured products around it or futures or anything like that, which is kind of surprising. I guess it boils down then to, John, it is just a very difficult process to get enough standardization. Is that really the issue, or is it maybe some sort of competitiveness between the different players in the space, or was it really just the fact that it was an opaque marketplace until a few years ago, so they didn't want the transparency of a liquid listed product? Maybe all of the above. What do you really pin the lack of investable and tradable products on, John?
Yeah, you nailed it there. It's really been a lack of data on actual transaction pricing, which one of the industry's leading exchanges, IDEX Online, which just hit with 1 million stones available on their exchange that the diamond industry works off of. They have been focused on creating in logging and creating a platform where we could collect the actual data of a transaction, because you often see in lots of different platforms the bid and ask price, but we really don't know what that transaction price is. And this exchange has created the opportunity over the last 10 years or so to start collecting the hard data on the transactions. And I believe we're going to see something close to kind of what you were inferring very soon with the Diamond tracking index that people can start making solid decisions about the prices of diamonds.
That'll be a good step because obviously a lot of our audience likes themselves a nice index that they could trade around, whether it's a future, whether it's an ETP or some sort of other structured product. At least there's an index they could trace and they could track, and they have products linked to that they could sink their teeth into. That will certainly go a long way towards fostering, I think, adoption of this marketplace out there, particularly within the trading community. But I want to go back to something you just touched on earlier. It kind of perked my ears up a little bit. Obviously, we do a crypto rundown program every week on this network, every Monday, or whenever you listen to it after the fact, listeners out there. So there's a lot of different facets of the crypto space that are kind of interesting. See what I did there? Facets? See? Pun intended. That's why I get the big bucks here. But you mentioned diamond and the intersection of diamonds and the crypto market. Well, what are we seeing on that front there, John?
Well, I believe a lot of that is all still in stealth mode. There is a lot of interest in diamond-backed cryptos, and don't have any leaders in the pack that I can bring up quite yet. But I think the exchange in Singapore uses a bullion. They call it a bullion. It's $100,000 and a $200,000 bullion, which has a combination of diamonds to create that value. And using a diamond-backed standard like that is what will probably be incorporated into some kind of cryptocurrency soon.
Makes sense. Just logistically and logically sounds like there should be a lot of intersection between the hard asset market and the crypto space, which is trying to do an end run around our fiat system. It makes sense that there should be certain elements of both marketplaces that would probably see eye to eye on a lot of things. Just judging by all the feedback we get on our Crypto Rundown show, I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there in that marketplace who'd be interested in hard assets and indeed vice versa. You know, John, the other thing I hear a lot about in the diamond space these days are these lab-grown diamonds. It seems like there were, at least leading into this pandemic, I'm not sure about now, but there were a bunch of startups going out there trying to raise capital in the Valley and other places to try to get rid of the old Mother Nature version of a diamond, which takes millions of years and is a very rare one-off event, and trying to replicate that on a much more industrialized scale in the lab. But what do you know about these lab-grown diamonds, and what's that marketplace shaping up like?
Well, as a diamond cutter in the year 2000 or so, I came across some of the first lab-grown diamonds here in the States, and was able to cut and polish them, and it really piqued my interest to see how this industry was evolving. Right now, the biggest producers of lab-grown diamonds are coming out of China and India, and funny enough, De Beers also has gotten into growing lab-grown diamonds out of their facility in the UK. It's called Element 6, which is building a new factory in Oregon to produce lab-grown diamonds under their new brand of jewelry here in the States, being distributed, and you may have seen it in some malls already, called Lightbox. That business is growing. The natural diamond industry was very scared about this, interloper coming into the business and confusing the clients of what's real, what's not real. And De Beers, in very brilliant stroke, took the confusion out and said that they were going to produce diamonds that were lab-grown diamonds that were previously at a 30 to 40% discount to natural diamonds. They came out and said, well, we're going to produce them and sell them for $800 a carat. So they in one swoop, took the lab-grown diamonds from a competitor to natural diamonds to saying these are a fashion item, and they're not the same. They are, deeply discounted. And so since then, since about a year and a half ago, the prices of lab-grown diamonds have slowly creeped down and keep kind of falling because it's pretty much a technology play, right? The more and more lab-grown diamond producers there are, technology gets cheaper, and the cost of producing them is less, and it takes a lot of marketing to get jewelry out to consumers. So they're kind of going to be in their own category, more on the fashion side. Is the strategy.
Nice to have that market power of De Beers. They can just come out and set the price, and everyone else just has to get in line out there. I heard you call them natural grown. Is that what these things are referring to, or dare I say it? Do we actually have organic diamonds now? Is that a thing, John? Even saying that, it sounds offensive to me. But is that what's being marketed out there now?
Well, the FTC had deliberated back and forth, and the industry was. Talking with them on, how are we going to define this officially? And it proved out that lab-grown diamonds are one category, and natural or earth-mined diamonds are a different category. And the lab-grown diamond industry isn't allowed to call them a real diamond. They have to label it as a lab-grown diamond, and so sort of the separation is happening that way. Nobody's trademarked the organic natural diamond yet, but I think just making the distinction between earth-mined and lab-grown is kind of the goal right now.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I was busy trademarking organic diamonds. I'll be back in a minute. There, it seems like an opportunity. They can slap organic on just about everything else. Why not diamonds? It's just a marketing term now.
Absolutely.
It's interesting you mentioned the price coming down, because I could kind of see two arguments for the prices moving in different directions for these things. On the one hand, of course, they clearly are not as rare as your precious earth-grown diamond, for lack of a better term, because those are a very one-off type event. From a pure just supply standpoint, there's more of them. But on the flip side, you could also see maybe an argument, maybe people desiring these more because they don't have the baggage associated with traditional diamonds. We've seen all the things, blood diamonds and everything else. I could see a certain segment of the audience maybe wanting these and desiring them more than a traditional diamond. It sounds like, John, that has not been the case, though. It sounds like people are still, for the most part, preferring the old school, dare I say, organic diamonds, sir?
I guess it depends on the market we're talking about. Definitely younger consumers are steering in the direction that you just outlined in looking for either something domestically produced or not as perceived as environmentally kind of damaging or not have any affiliation with any kind of conflict. There is definitely a trend towards the younger consumers, millennial brides and grooms wanting to go with a lab grown, but it's also the price. The prices are much less. So that's also driving it, driving kind of the decision on that.
Well, John, that music unfortunately means we've come to the end of our journey through the world of diamonds and hard assets. But before we go, if folks are intrigued, I can imagine quite a few of them are. Maybe they want to learn more about what's going on in the world of diamonds and all the hard assets. They want to debate natural versus organic diamonds with you. Maybe they want to just acquire some diamonds for their own investment purposes to stock them away downstairs nice and safe, John. If they are so inclined, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Well, thanks very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Great talking to you. And I can be found at the diamondanalyst.com on the web or at Diamond Analyst on Twitter and Instagram. So feel free to email me or just DM me.
There you go. Reach out to the man on all the various platforms out there. We'll make sure we retweet links to him as well. Just search for the Diamond Analyst on Twitter. That's where I go for all my diamond nuggets. And you should as well. And of course, I can't think of a better time, especially now in these trying pandemic times, to maybe investigate a little bit of different asset classes out there. I'm sure John will be happy to help you do just that. On behalf of John and indeed myself, I want to thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing, for listening live, for keeping all those questions and those suggestions and those show ideas flowing into us. We love to hear all of them. Keep them coming. And we'll see you back here later today. You're going to get some OPR in your ears. They're going to do a nice little huddle with Brian, so that should be a fun one. And, of course, we'll be back here tomorrow for TWIFO and for the option block. Vol Views on Friday. And we kick it all off back again next week for more of the Options Insider Radio Network.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.